when the second time, the second age comes, power in the region of the Black Sea will do the same thing. Is to once more be on the foundations of faith in the second coming. Power will manifest itself in the region of the Black Sea, and that power will be used to punish the oppressor. Bad news for the oppressor. And then we went to the rising of the sun in the opposite direction, and we said it has to be up to the Caspian Sea, because you can't go beyond that. So between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea is a very, very, very important geographical location for Akhir Zaman. This is why I have this in my heart. I want to travel from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea. And I'm already getting emails from those Sheikh, we want to go with you, we want to go with you. And the others advising me, someone wrote to me from Baku, someone who is Azerbaijani, someone who is Armenian, writing to me and saying, we'll assist you in that journey, inshallah. So we traveled in the direction of the rising of the sun. And the rising of the sun is important for Akhir Zaman. The rising of the sun is one rising of the sun which comes from Allah. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam says to the king, my Lord, my God causes the sun to rise from the east. Why don't you get it to rise from the west? Shall I repeat that? My God causes the sun to rise from the east. Why don't you try to get it to rise from the west? And this is what Dajjal has done. Dajjal has caused the sun to rise from the west. It's, of course, a false sunrise. And this is my opinion. You can differ with me by all means. This is my opinion. And I want to have this recorded in my book that this is my opinion. Take this to the grave. The modern Western civilization has brought that false sunrise to the world. And so he's moving away. Power resting on the foundations of faith in the vicinity of in the area of the Black Sea will not move towards the false sunrise. It will move towards the true sunrise. And that's Russia's destiny. And as it moves to the true sunrise, there at the Caspian Sea, where Azerbaijan is located, Armenia is located next to Azerbaijan, he found the people, and Allah says about them, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُمْ مِنْ دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. A people who live the natural way of life. You can do what you want. You cannot brainwash these people into living an artificial way of life. That is what you have in the lands of the false sunrise, an artificial way of life where a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate. But those who live the natural way of life, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُمْ مِنْ دُونِهَا سِتْرًا, will live the way of life ordained by Allah by nature. And that's a beautiful way of life. I used to say for many years, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُمْ مِنْ دُونِهَا سِتْرًا implies that people who live a primitive way of life, but knowledge increases with time. You must allow the river of knowledge to flow at its own speed. You must allow the river of thought to flow at its own speed. And so I am now blessed with this new understanding, and I thank Allah for it. That He met a people who live the natural way of life. That natural way of life will survive. And so in this geography, from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, there will be a people who, despite all the wars of oppression launched against them, all the efforts made to sabotage Akhir Zaman, they still remain a nice people. They still remain a people who live the natural way of life. That's Armenia. That's Azerbaijan. But there'll always be amongst them those who've been corrupted. And the ones who are corrupted usually are the ones who seize power and try to oppress the people. So Dhul Qarnayn had the good sense, the wisdom, the compassion, the intelligence to allow them to continue to live the way they were living. And so when the second Qarn comes, when we travel to the direction of the rising of the sun, there by the Caspian Sea, you will once again find the nicest people of all. What a terrible thing it would be. What a terrible thing it would be for anyone to have hatred in their hearts for the Armenian people. How terrible it would be for anyone to have hatred in their hearts for the masses, the peasants of Azerbaijan, and nice people. Having made the journey to one end of the land, and then the journey to the other end of the land, the question was answered. What Allah knew, what the rabbis wanted. The question did not identify the target. The target was Gog and Magog. They wanted to know whether Nabi Muhammad knew about Gog and Magog. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now speaks about the third journey that the rabbis had not asked about. This is analysis. He now travels to a pass between the mountains. So you're looking for a range of mountains stretching from this sea to that sea, and in between is one solitary pass, and that is the Caucasus Mountains. And there at that pass, he finds a people. And they are people whose language could not be understood. Because their language was not related to the regional languages. And that's the Georgian language. Okay. And the people then said to him, surely Gog and Magog are committing acts of facade in this land. Facade is something that is evil. And that facade is a punishment for Allah for those who commit facade. So Gog and Magog have to be either angels or jinn or human beings. These are the only three categories of beings mentioned in the Quran. They can't be angels because angels do not commit any evil deeds. They cannot be jinn, and I'll tell you why soon. They have to be human beings. Gog and Magog are human beings. The others who choose to believe otherwise, leave them. Let's move ahead. And can you build a barrier to block this path, to protect it from Gog and Magog? So Gog and Magog are located on the other side of the mountain range. And Dhul Qarnayn should have said, oh, but I don't need to build any barrier. Allah has given me power. And I have said that with that power I will punish those who commit acts of oppression and wickedness. So why then did he agree to build the barrier? Answer? The answer is located in a hadith in Sahih Muslim. It is a hadith al-Qudsi that Allah says, I have created creatures of mind so powerful that none but I can destroy them. So not even Dhul Qarnayn has the power to destroy Gog and Magog. But he can check them, or they can checkmate them so that they are harmless. And that's what he did. The first time, he did it by building a barrier. And the barrier was built with blocks of iron and coated with copper. So you need iron ore, and there's an abundance of iron ore in that region where the Dariel Gorge is located. The Quran actually describes the shape of the gorge. It says, when he arrives to the Sadafain, Sadafain means two sides of a shell, Sadafain. So it has a shape like this. That's the same shape it has up to this day. So we know exactly the location. It's not by the Caspian Sea, it's here at the Dariel Gorge. So when he built this barrier, the blocks of iron coated with copper, Gog and Magog could not penetrate, nor could they scale the barrier. If Gog and Magog were jinn, they could pass through the barrier. But it's obvious they are neither angels nor they are jinn, they are human beings. This is analysis. But after he built the barrier, Gog and Magog were now contained and the world is safe. The world is safe. So now, when the second Qarn comes, are you listening? When the second Qarn comes, the second time, that was the first one. When the second time, the second age comes, power in the region of the Black Sea will do the same thing. They will check Gog and Magog, so Gog and Magog can no longer enter into the world from that region to corrupt the world. So the world will be free from the oppression and the corruption of Gog and Magog. Now then, let me pause to explain one thing here, and it is critically important. Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, said that when Gog and Magog are released from behind that barrier, the first of them will pass by the Black Sea. Sorry, the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee on their way to Jerusalem, because there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim which says that when they reach to Jerusalem, Nabi Isa alayhi salam will be there. Jesus will be there. And he will climb up a mountain. And the hadith of Sahih Muslim identifies that mountain and says, and it is a mountain in Baytul Maqdis. That is the hadith. So Gog and Magog are going to pass by the Sea of Galilee on their way to Jerusalem, Baytul Maqdis. And that's where they will perish, they will die. They will die, they will have their days ended in Jerusalem. But what is important, now we come back to this later, is that why would the last of them come? We know that when the barrier is removed, Allah breaks it down. Then the first of them will come. But why will the last of them come? The answer is, the last of them will come because Dhul Qarnayn has blocked them a second time. The second of the two Qarns will do the same thing with the first of the two Qarns. On both occasions, Dhul Qarnayn will block them. I don't know how he will block them. The first time was with a wall. I don't know how the second time will be. But this is what is going to happen in the second part. That is why he used the word, the last of them all. Because there will be still Gog and Magog on that side of the barrier. But they cannot come. They cannot come to the second cut. They cannot come because Dhul Qarnayn will block them. I'm saying this for the first time. I never said this before. And so now, having built the barrier,